Madman Across the Water is the fourth studio album by British singer-songwriter Elton John, released in 1971 through Uni Records. Album history: John Johnston, Dee Murray and Nigel Olsson, who would be the main musicians on the next album, would soon join with percussionist Ray Cooper and form the best-known lineup of his mid-1970s band. As with all John's songs during this period, the lyrics were penned by his writing partner, Bernie Taupin. This was the last album to be recorded at London's Trident Studios. They relocated to Car Cento de Copyright Ravel for the next three albums. Caleb Quay and Roger Pope wouldn't play with John again until Rock of the Westies in 1975, following Murray and Olsson's departure from the band. Upon its release, Madman Across the Water was almost ignored in John's homeland, barely reaching number 41 on the UK albums chart and spending only 2 weeks there. It has been the lowest charting album of his career to date. The album fared better in North America, peaking at number 8 on the US Billboard Top Pop Albums and placing at number 10 on the year-end list of 1972. It received gold by the RIAA in February 1972, achieving $1 million in sales at wholesale value just in the United States. In 1998, the album was certified multi-platinum, representing shipments of over 2 million units in the US. The title song was set to be released on John's previous album Tumbleweed Connection. However, it was set aside and would eventually be re-recorded and serve as the title track of this album. Previous versions of the song can still be found, specifically on the remastered Tumbleweed Connection CD. When it was released in the Classic Years collection, it was the first album not to feature any bonus tracks. One known track recorded at the time, Rock Me When He's Gone, was released on Rare Masters a few years before. The song was written for and recorded by one of John's longtime friends, Long John Baldry. This was John's first album in which he plays his piano and no other keyboards. This was the first album in which Davy Johnstone played guitar for John, a role that would continue for decades. The song Holiday Inn was written for Adam Diaz. An additional verse in the recorded version that was originally part of the song was either omitted during recording or edited out of the final album version. It can, however, be heard on unofficial live recordings of the song from some of his concerts during this period, which have circulated among collectors. Track listing: all music composed by Elton John, all lyrics written by Bernie Taupin. Side 1, Tiny Dancer Euro 6:15, Levin Euro 5:22, Razorface Euro 4:44, Madman Across the Water Euro 5:56, Side 2, Indian Sunset Euro 6:45, Holiday Inn Euro 4:17, Rotten Peaches Euro 4:56, All the Nasties Euro 5:08, Goodbye Euro 1:48. When this album was issued on cassette, MCA swapped the places of Razorface and Rotten Peaches on side 1 and 2 of the tape. The SACD version of the album contained a longer version of Razorface, which extended the song-ending jam to 6:42 instead of the early fade on the original album. This extended version can only be heard in the 5.1 surround mix. Personnel: Elton John, piano, vocals, Roger Pope, drums, David Glover, bass guitar, Caleb Quay, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, B.J. Cole, steel guitar, Davy Johnstone, acoustic guitar, mandolin, sitar, Leslie Duncan, Sue and Sonny, Barry Street John, Liza Strike, Roger Cook, Tony Burrows, Terry Steele, Dee Murray, Nigel Olsson, backing vocals, Paul Buckmaster, arrangement, Barry Morgan, drums, Brian Rogers, bass guitar, Brian D., harmonium, Rick Wakeman, organ, Jack Emblow, accordion, Terry Cox, drums, Herbie Flowers, bass guitar, Ray Cooper, percussion, tambourine, Chris Spedding, electric guitar, slide guitar, Diana Lewis, ARP synthesizer, Chris Lawrence, double bass, Cantor's M. Ecclesia Choir, backing vocals. Nigel Olsson, drums, Dee Murray, bass guitar, production, producer, Gus Dudgeon, engineer, Robin Jeffrey Cable, remastering, Tony Cousins, editing, Gus Skyners, digital transfers, Ricky Graham, surround sound, Greg Penny, assistant. Crispin Murray, orchestra contractor, David Katz, choir director, Robert Kirby, arranger, Paul Buckmaster, art direction, David Larkham, design, David Larkham, artwork, Gil, Yanis, illustrations, David Larkham, photography, Bob Gruen, David Larkham, cover photo, David Larkham, liner notes, Gus Dudgeon, John Tobler, charts, references.